Hi, everyone, and welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast presented by DraftKings Pick6. I am Mike Barner. He is Kirien Sprecher, and we are here every Wednesday to help you win your fantasy basketball leagues. Kirien, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Let's get into it.
All right, first of all, I'm going to apologize. My voice isn't the best today. Two little kids, you catch colds. So I'm here, power through. So let's start out with news and notes. First, we're going to go to the marquee matchup of last night. Celtics Cavaliers. The Celtics win 120 to 117, dealing the Cavs their first loss of the season. Jason Tatum, 33 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 3-pointers. Fantastic performance. Can't say the same for Darius Garland of the Cavalier. 8 points on 3 for 21 shooting from the field. Oh, that's ugly. But Kirien, the Celtics, Ken Kreitz is having a great day today. The Celtics knock off the Cavaliers last night.
Yeah, give the Cavaliers their first loss of the season. What a start for the Cavs. I don't think this loss takes anything away from the Cavaliers' start. I think they're going to be competing in the East all season. You just got to look at the 3-point percentage for the Celtics, right? And Joe Mazzulla has been talking about that. He wants to get threes up. They shot 54% on 41 attempts. When the Celtics do this, they're going to beat basically every other team, no matter how well the opposing team shoots, especially when the opposing team's shooting guard shoots 3 for 21, like you said. Cavs also had some injuries coming into this game. A few of their wing players didn't play. So you know, a 3-point loss to the reigning champions as your first loss of the season when you're a little shorthanded, not a terrible way to take your first loss if I'm the Cavs.
Yeah, there's no way when the Celtics are locked in from behind the arc you can beat them. There's no way. So the Cavaliers gave it a fight last night. At least it was a good game. And it was nice to start off a show talking about a positive thing because, man, do we have a lot of negatives. So here it is, time to talk about all the players who are out or getting ready to miss extended period of time. First, we're going to start off with some big names. Nikola Jokic missed his third straight game Tuesday due to personal reasons. The Nuggets somehow still beat the Grizzlies, and they did so in dominating fashion. The headline from that game, Russell Westbrook with his 200th career triple-double. Good news is Jokic is just out with personal reasons, so we're not dealing with an injury. Hopefully we'll get him back soon here, Kirien.
Yeah, one of the Denver reporters tweeted out right when he first missed his first game that she knew what was going on with the situation and that everybody in his family was, doing okay and that they were going to be okay. But there was still no timetable. So, I think that was his third straight absence. It could probably continue on past that. There's no real timetable for the 3-time MVP. Concerning for fantasy managers, but he's got to do what's best for him. Aaron Gordon's also still out for the Nuggets, so you got Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Dario Saric, and Vlatko Cancar as like candidates for increased roles in the meantime. We don't want to speculate too much on what's going on with the Jokic situation, but until there's clarity, we just have to kind of assume that he's going to be out for at least a couple more games.
Good news is it's not an injury, so at least we'll hang our hats on that. But another top pick, Victor Wembanyama, is dealing with an injury. He has a knee injury. He sat out his second straight game Tuesday against the Thunder. Devin Vassell also popped up with a knee injury and did not play in that game. Any appealing ads for you here with a couple of injuries to the key players on the Spurs?
Yeah, you saw Keldon Johnson had a good game. He hit some threes, had a Showtime dunk. Wemby has talked about how much he hates the resting culture in the NBA. He's very adamant about that. He wants to play in every game. He hates minutes restrictions. So this probably is a situation where the Spurs are just saving him from himself. I was really looking forward to a Wemby Chet showing. Obviously, Chet is also injured. Who's not injured in today's NBA for real? I think Wemby will be okay eventually. I feel like there probably would have been a report if this was going to be like a multi-week absence. He's probably just day-to-day for now. The Vassell injury is very concerning for me. He made his season debut on November 9th. He played in 4 straight games, and then he took a seat for the second night of a back-to-back set. He had one foot surgery last season, and then he needed another foot surgery this summer because he wasn't really healing properly. I don't want to be like he's injury prone, but there's clearly like a recovery process here that like his lower body just isn't getting right. It's just labeled as knee soreness for now, but we know that a report could come out tonight that it's a week to week sort of thing. Even if he does come back soon, he's been playing on a minutes restriction. So the Vassell thing is very concerning for me. Wemby thing, not so much, but obviously Wemby puts up way more points than Vassell does, and fantasy points than Vassell does. So there's, that give and take there. But I think Wemby will be back soon. Vassell, I don't think he's going to be playing 30+ minutes for at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and with Vassell dealing with his injury, I want to bring up Stephon Castle. He's averaging 14.4 points, 2.7 rebounds, 5.1 assists, and 1.7 3-pointers over his last 7 games. He looks legitimate. He doesn't look like a rookie out there. They mentioned that on the broadcast last night. Great performance against the Thunder. I think Castle is someone to add moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. He had a little bit of a slow start to the season, but the last couple of weeks have been absolute money for fantasy, for sure.
All right, now maybe some good news. Tyrese Maxey is questionable for Wednesday's game against the Grizzlies. He practiced in full on Tuesday, so even if he doesn't play Wednesday, sounds like his return is imminent. What are we doing with Jared McCain once Tyrese Maxey comes back?
I mean, if we've been watching Kyle Lowry, if Nick Nurse has been watching Kyle Lowry, Jared McCain needs to stick in the rotation, and Lowry needs to be eased back. There are moments for Lowry, right? Like, come playoff time, come big games, like he can have a few moments, but let this young kid play, man. Pairing Maxey with Jared McCain seems like an ideal thing, with Embiid not looking like himself and Paul George, being Paul George with inefficient shooting and whatnot. Like, he'll have his games too. I'm holding McCain in my big money league. He went for like $80 in on the waiver wire this weekend. I think he's going to stick. Is he going to be scoring 25 points a night? Probably not. But this kid, like, he's going to get open looks from 3. He's proven that he can make them. I'm holding McCain for now, for sure. Even if Nick Nurse still moves him to the bench and keeps Lowry in, I'm holding all my McCain shares for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I believe I saw something that Lowry's hurt and he's going to miss some time, so that should help McCain. Exactly like you said. Is he going to score 20, 25 points a game when everybody's healthy? No, probably closer in that 12 to 15 points a game range. However, how many times are all 3 guys on the 76ers, Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey, going to be healthy at the same time? Probably not very often. So I think McCain, like you said, someone you hold on to. Just got to temper expectations a little bit, but someone you hold on to. Now, another player, who missed some time Tuesday, Cam Thomas was out against the Hornets with a back injury. Somehow the Nets still won. That was a wild game, going back and forth with some big leads that both teams blew. And the reason why the Nets won that game, Cam Johnson, 34 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 6 3-pointers over 38 minutes. Man, even when the Nets here are sitting their top player, they're still winning games. How are they going to tank? This is terrible. What do we think about Cam Thomas?
Yeah, being downgraded from probable to out is always a big surprise and a little bit concerning. I will preface, he's been logging heavy minutes, playing 34.2 minutes per game. And Tuesday's contest was the Nets' 7th game in 10 or 11 days. So, like, this might have just been a little bit of a precautionary reason, get him off his feet a little bit after he's been logging heavy minutes. He's still a young guy, so we'll see. Back injuries can be finicky. I think Thomas will be back in the lineup before long. I feel like this will probably be only a 1-game absence. And you got to ride with him. He's been fantastic. Like you said, the Nets just keep finding ways to, like, be in games, and the West or the East is just absolutely horrible. So, before long, like, they might actually be in the playoff conversation. We'll see. I think this is like a yellow light for Thomas. We're going to have to see if he pops up on the injury report again. If he does, maybe a little bit of concern, but just a yellow light for now.
I almost wonder, he went from probable to start the day to out. I mean, it is a back thing, so back stuff can be tricky, like you said. But the Hornets, they're no good. Maybe the Nets were thinking, this isn't one that we necessarily want to win, so let's be extra cautious with Thomas, and they still won anyway. So, man, they need to get a new commander of the tank, because they're not driving it correctly right now. So now, maybe my most depressing piece of news in this, not the biggest name, but, man, near and dear to my heart. Norm Powell is out Wednesday against the Magic with a hamstring injury. He is averaging 23.3 points and 3.9 3-pointers per game. We talked him up extensively during draft season. I hope you got him. He has paid off tremendously, but he's hurt right now. I don't like hamstring injuries. Kirien, are we nervous about our guy Norman Powell?
Yeah, obviously very nervous. The fact that he returned to Monday's game after initially suffering the injury and he finished with a solid stat line, made some threes, gives you a little bit of hope, right? But then he was immediately ruled out for tonight's game, not even questionable at first. So he's 31, like you said, hamstring injuries, never a good sign. And normally, we can both attest to this. When you get hurt, when you get older, normally you can fight through it for a little bit, and then the next day when you wake up, all of that comes crashing down on you. Obviously, Norman Powell is a much better athlete than either of us, but that still applies here. A little bit concerning, especially with the start that he's had. We'll see what happens. The Clippers rotation has been weird, to say the least. They're like kind of like the Warriors where they have a lot of guys going. Amir Coffey has been getting playing time. Chris Dunn has moved into the starting lineup. Terrence Mann was benched, but then he had a really good game on Monday. So I don't really know who's going to step up in Powell's absence, especially no one's going to replicate what he's been doing this season because he's just been absolutely a revelation and fantastic.
Yeah, the matchup isn't great for DFS purposes because they're playing the Magic tonight, but they don't have scoring. All these guys off the bench are mid-tiers. Maybe Kevin Porter Jr. gets a little extra. He's never shy about shooting. So that's a guy to keep in mind if you're looking for somebody to take a chance on in a tournament in DFS tonight. Maybe Kevin Porter Jr. would be someone to consider.
Before we move on from Paul, I just want to say I saw like the biggest increases of scoring from last year to this year. And it's like, Dyson Daniels, Cam Thomas, like all of the expected like young guys, like all of them are under like 24, 23. And then it's Norman Powell, like 31-year-old. What a start to the season he's having.
The man, Norm Powell. Get well soon, Norm. We need you on our fantasy teams. Now, we might be seeing someone return here pretty soon. CJ McCollum of the Pelicans. He practiced in full on Monday. He did not play Tuesday against the Mavericks. It was the first game of a back-to-back set, so we'll have to keep an eye on him for tonight's game. When he does return, probably going to be on a minutes restriction for a while, but man, the Pelicans have been hammered by injuries, so to get McCollum back would be huge for both the team and for fantasy managers who drafted him. However, those who have been riding the Brandon Boston Jr. production train might need to make a stop here and get off pretty soon.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Similar to Maxey, McCollum will be back this week, whether it's tonight or this weekend. That's what the reporting says, is that he's very close to making his return. Jordan Hawkins is only just a couple days behind him. Herbert Jones and DeJounte probably still like a week or so away from being, reevaluated again or returning to full practices. And then there's no word on Zion or Alvarado. But like you said, like the Pelicans are starting to get these guys back. And so that takes away from those hot waiver wire pickups early in the season. I think Brandon Boston, even with McCollum back, limited a little bit, I feel like you probably will still have some value. But then once you start getting all of these guys back, like you said, you're going to have to hop off that train.
Deandre Ayton is out with a finger injury. I'm going to try and read this and not mess it up. Imaging revealed a deep contusion of the proximal phalanx. Okay. I don't know if that's right, but in other words, he hurt his finger and he's out. He's likely out Wednesday against the Thunder. There's been no timetable given for his return. There's really no need to rush him back. Robert Williams III and Donovan Clingan are playing well. If you are driving through the neighborhood in Portland, there are probably signs up everywhere. Please trade for Deandre Ayton. They would probably love to get rid of him. But as of right now, Ayton is sidelined with an injury. Williams and Clingan, both worth adding, Kirien?
Williams, like obviously he's going to be limited. The injury history, he's probably never going to be a 30-minute per game guy, but like he looks fantastic. He was shooting threes, he was blocking shots. Clingan, you got to assume that Williams or Ayton is going to get traded, and Clingan will be the future center of this franchise. He looks great, good rim protector, following too much, but like that can be expected as a rookie. So you probably will get some games where he gets 3 fouls in the first half and doesn't play hardly at all. But I'm definitely, tentatively adding Williams and Clingan, more so Clingan though, and probably Williams just as like a deep league special for like blocks and stuff.
All right, some good news for the Hawks. Bogdanovic returned Monday, but Jalen Johnson unfortunately sat out. Bogdanovic played 18 minutes off the bench, 6 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. Don't concern yourself over his return with Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels is going to start, and he's going to play a ton. Johnson's the bigger concern here. Not only did he miss that game, but he's questionable for Wednesday against the Warriors. He has been everything that we had hoped for heading into the season and more as a breakout candidate. So the Bogdanovic news is great for the Hawks, gives them a little bit of depth, but our eyes, Kirien, are trained on Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, 100%. Just when you thought the Hawks were getting healthy, DeAndre Hunter is back, Bogdanovic is back, and then Jalen Johnson is a late scratch. Lower leg inflammation doesn't sound good. This is a hold your breath situation. Johnson obviously struggled to stay healthy last year after he broke out a little bit, so there's legitimate concern about him being able to stay healthy for a full season. But he's young, obviously could be back in the lineup relatively soon. But like you said, he's been everything you could have possibly asked for. Wisconsin kid, so I was high on him coming into the season. I have big hopes for him. We'll see what happens. I think, obviously in his absence, you look at a guy like DeAndre Hunter to step up, who has been playing fantastic off the bench anyways. But like I said, this holds your breath situation, because this could be a multi-week thing. And it could also be he's back in the lineup this weekend. So we'll see.
All right, we're going to wrap up this news and notes segment with Zach Edey is week to week with an ankle injury. Now, Brandon Clark has started each of the last 5 games that he has played. However, averaging just 7 points and 5.2 rebounds over 18 minutes a game. Probably just play some more Jaren Jackson Jr. at center. I was watching that Grizzlies Nuggets game. Interior defense was optional on both sides. Neither team could stop it. It was just a run to the rim every time someone had the ball. But one thing here, maybe we see more of Santi Aldama. He has been great. On Tuesday, he had 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 3-pointers. For the season, he's averaging 12.9 points, 7.1 rebounds, 3.2 assists, and 1.3 3-pointers in 29 minutes per game. So with Edey out here, maybe Aldama is the biggest beneficiary, Kirien?
Oh, yes. Aldama is like that girl you can't quit, man. She's like, he puts up these performances, and you're like, oh, I love you so much. I can't wait for the 20-6, and we'll be happily married all season long. And then all of a sudden he's like, why did he play 8 minutes last game? But I love Santi with Edey week to week. John Morant is also week to week, and that has been pretty consistent where he's missed a couple weeks. So no breaks or anything serious for Edey, but the Grizz are going to be cautious with a big man rookie like this. Don't want to run him into the ground too much. Aldama, definitely a good play. I'd also say Jay Huff is probably like a deeper league guy. When he's gotten minutes, he's can do a little bit of everything, which is always what we're looking for in fantasy. But I don't think there's any like super major red flags that Edey's going to be out for, months or anything at this point.
Now we're going to move on to some players. We're going to have some discussions. Who would you rather have between pairings for the rest of the season? But before we do that, let's hear a word from our good friends at DraftKings Pick6.
Here at RotoWire, we're proud to be partnered up with DraftKings Pick6 this NBA season. Think your team will score more than 100 points tonight? How about your favorite point guard making more than 4 3-pointers? Check out DraftKings Pick6, the newest way to play fantasy basketball and win cash with DraftKings. Here's how it works. All you got to do is pick 2 to 6 players of the same sport and choose if they'll have more or less of a given stat. So for hoops, we're talking points, assists, rebounds, etc. Lock in those picks, compete against opponents for your shot at huge cash prizes. Go download the new DraftKings Pick6 app right now and use our code ROTOPICK, ROTOPICK. That's code ROTOPICK for new Pick6 customers. Play $5, get $50 in Pick6 credits guaranteed. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Thank you again to DraftKings Pick6 for sponsoring the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. All right, this is going to cause some debate and some discussion. So we want to see your responses to these. Who would you rather have in the comments too? So let's start it off with the biggest one. Joel Embiid or Bam Adebayo? Kirien, who would you rather have for the rest of the fantasy basketball season?
I think if you've been tuning into this show, you probably already know the answer. I'm gonna go with Bam. It hasn't been the greatest start of the season for Adebayo. With Jimmy back in the fold, I think Bam can probably relax a bit and get back to what he does best. Bam is playing a career high in minutes, career low shooting percentages from the field and the free throw line. Probably because he's shooting more 3-pointers this season, but I'll take a couple extra 3-pointers if he can get back to like that 45, 48% from the field. Simply just, this is more about Embiid. You can't trust him to stay healthy. He's going to sit out back-to-backs, which is a killer in weekly lineup leagues. If you're in a league where a daily lineup changes, sure, you can play Embiid, and then when he sits out a back-to-back, you can swap in Drummond or you can swap in whatever other backup center you have. But that's just a huge hit, man. Like if you're only having Embiid for half of the time and you probably spent a higher draft pick or more on him in an auction than you did in an Adebayo, I just think Adebayo is the safer play, and he has a top 25, top 30 ceiling if he can get back to that solid efficiency that he's shown throughout his career. And I really think Jimmy being in the fold will help that help Adebayo get his efficiency back, take better shots, not have to do so much offensively. So I think this one is relatively easy. I think Adebayo is safer and has maybe not just as high of an upside, but a high upside regardless. And I think if you can pull off a trade straight up, I would take Adebayo 9 times out of 10.
I agree with you. Entering this season, Adebayo had 4 straight seasons in which he averaged at least 18.7 points, 9 rebounds, 3.2 assists, and 1.1 steals per game. Embiid is all upside at this point. His injuries are too concerning. I'm with you, Kirien. We're going to take Bam Adebayo. Now, another hot take. LaMelo Ball or Tyrese Haliburton. This season, LaMelo Ball is averaging 28.4 points, 4.8 rebounds, 6.6 assists, 1.2 steals, and a whopping 4.5 3-pointers. Now, on the flip side, Haliburton, 16.1 points. That's a big disappointment. 3.7 rebounds, 8.5 assists, also a bit of a disappointment. 1.4 steals, 2.3 3-pointers, and the biggest red flag, shooting 38.3% from the field. Kirien, who are you going with here?
All right, I just talked about Jalen Johnson being a Wisconsin guy. Haliburton, also a Wisconsin guy. I want to be able to back Haliburton, but I don't think I can do that. This is almost a toss-up for me, but you nailed it. The Haliburton assist dropping. We can deal with him shooting poorly from 3 every once in a while, but he's averaging 2.4 fewer assists than he did last season. That's even more startling than the drop in 3-point percentage to me. 3-pointers, you can go on runs, you can get cold. It normally reverts back to the mean eventually. But assists for a guy like Haliburton who runs this offense, those should be a dime a dozen. That is very concerning. I know LaMelo just got benched, in a close game. That was a little concerning. I think that was just a new coach trying to, tell his star player, hey, we're going to do things right here now that I'm here. We'll see if that works out. In the long run, LaMelo is not going to be benched in close games moving forward. He's top 5 in clutch scoring this season, so that was crazy. I think that assist thing is the biggest difference for me. That's why I'm taking LaMelo here, just because I think his scoring is already better, and if they're averaging the same amount of assists, the efficiency and whatever, it is all a wash in. So
I'm actually going to take the safer route here. And I'm going to go with Haliburton. Now, I watch a ton of Hornets games because Eric Collins is my favorite broadcaster, okay? If you're not watching Hornets games on League Pass, you're doing something wrong. They're not a good team, but, man, that is one of the best League Pass broadcasts. LaMelo Ball takes over games in the fourth quarter. When he is healthy, he is a top 10 fantasy player. The problem is health is the issue. He's played a total of 58 games the last 2 seasons. When they're both healthy, to me, this hands down is LaMelo Ball. I'm not sure he's going to stay healthy. His ankles are a problem. I think I'd go safe route here and take Haliburton. I don't feel great about it, but I'm going to lean towards Haliburton.
That's totally fair. I figured that's where you were coming with, and I'm normally the games played guy. So you're kind of stealing my thunder there a little bit. I will say, like, obviously LaMelo's injury concerns were one of the biggest storylines of the last couple of seasons. He's up there with Zion and Embiid with not being able to stay on the court. Haliburton had he played through the hamstring injuries last year. The year before that, he played in only 56 games. As a rookie, he played in 58 games. So, like, yes, Haliburton is on the court more often, but he's not like a lock to play 82 games or anything. But I think that's still a fair take, and it's a toss up for me.
Yeah, that was a tough one. All right, now we're going to go on to a couple of big men. Rudy Gobert or Ivica Zubac. Gobert is averaging 10.9 points, 10.4 rebounds, and 1.6 blocks. Zubac is averaging 15.3 points, 12.4 rebounds, and 1.2 blocks. One of the biggest things for Zubac, I think, is that the Clippers are 8-7, and for him to maintain his fantasy value, they're probably going to need to stay in the playoff hunt. Kirien, which one do you like here? Gobert, the reliable, you know what you're going to get veteran, or Zubac, who's in the midst of a breakout campaign?
Yep, I think that nailed it right there. I'm sticking with Rudy's longevity here. He's done it more often. Zubac, like you said, the Clippers need to stay good, and he needs to keep playing 30, however many minutes he's playing, which is a career high already. Those doesn't seem like both of those happening is very likely. Maybe one of those happens. Like maybe he continues to play heavy minutes, but the Clippers fall down out of the standings. Maybe the Clippers stay in the standings, but then they have to reduce his minutes because he's just playing way too many minutes. This is like a weird situation. Rudy's shooting 80% from the free throw line right now. That's going to go down. Like I already talked about Zubac, where he's going to regress. Both of them are top 50 guys currently in category league. So I feel like they'll both like regress in their own ways, and then they'll probably be similar at the end. Rudy needs to get back to, like, he's not getting as many rebounds. He's not blocking as many shots as he was last year. Is that a part of, Julius Randle coming in and taking away rebounds, taking away block shot opportunities? Or is that just Rudy kind of like finding his groove with Randle there? If Rudy starts blocking 2 shots a game, this is an easy answer for me. But if they both regress in their own ways and they kind of stay in the same spot, I just like Rudy's longevity. He's done it before. The Timberwolves are a better team than the Clippers, and I think they're going to be competing longer. That it just seems like the safer play with 2 pretty not similar players necessarily, but similar producing players, if that makes sense.
So I'm going to put a disclaimer on this for my answer. If you're in a categories league and you need blocks, then Gobert would be the guy I'd rather have. If you're playing in like a points league, I would rather have Zubac, believe it or not. That we've talked about this with the Clippers before. They don't have anybody who can score. It's James Harden, it's Norm Powell, and that's it. And I don't think Kawhi's coming back anytime soon. I mean, who knows if we see him at all again this season. They need Zubac. So I think you're going to get more points from Zubac. And I think you might even get, at bare minimum, the same amount of rebounds, if not more rebounds than Gobert. So I think what Zubac is doing is for real based on the team context and what they need from him. So I would go with Zubac. All right. Now, Kyle Kuzma or Julius Randle. Kuzma is averaging 17 points, 6.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and 1.8 3-pointers. While Randle, first season with the Timberwolves, averaging 21.6 points, 6.5 rebounds, 4.4 assists, and 1.9 3-pointers. So pretty much across the board, better production than Kyle Kuzma. Kirien, who would you rather have rest of season?
This one is probably the easiest one that we're going to do. It's Julius Randle. We have no idea where Kuzma is going to be playing in February. The Wizards have a ton of young, exciting wing players that they're going to probably prioritize their developmental minutes eventually. Randle may not be as valuable as his New York days, but he's still going to be a lead dog. And like I talked about with Rudy, like the Timberwolves are going to compete this year, and Julius Randle is going to be a big reason why. And so he's going to see plenty of playing time and usage, where Kuzma, he's going to have his games. The Wizards are just not good enough for me to trust them as consistently as I would trust Julius.
The biggest thing that worries me, I'm with you, and the chat's with us too. Randle is the answer to go here. The biggest concern for me with Kuzma is the Wizards are so bad that they get blown out so often. He doesn't play in the fourth quarter. He's only averaging 28 minutes a game this season. There's going to be a lot of games where we might not see him at all in the fourth quarter because the Wizards are down by 20, 25 points. So playing time is also another big concern and why we're going with Randle. All right, now, a couple of youngsters, Brandon Miller or Jaden Ivey. Ivey's averaging 18.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 4.3 assists, and 1.8 three-pointers for the Pistons, while Miller is averaging 16.7 points, 4.1 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and 3.1 three-pointers for the Hornets. A couple of young guys here, Kirien. Which one are you going with?
I'm a huge Brandon Miller stan. He's ice cold from deep. He had a really good shooting performance the other night. But you got to love his improvement as a playmaker and defender, averaging many more assists and steals than he was last season. Ivey has shown us flashes before. He's obviously currently giving you way better production than Miller is. But if we're talking about rest of the season, I don't think either of these are really good teams, right? But I think the Hornets don't really know what they have in Miller yet. I think they could still believe that he could be a superstar. Whereas I think the Pistons are kind of we know what Ivey is. He's a energetic player who can score in bunches, get some steals every once in a while, but he's going to be inconsistent. And so I think just the Pistons already, and I shouldn't say it, Ivey's 22 years old. He can still grow into a good, solid player, but the Pistons brought in a ton of shooting, right? They brought in all of these, Tim Hardaway, Malik Beasley, all who are having good games. Why did they do that? Because Ivey wasn't that pairing next to Cade that they thought he was going to be. Obviously that's lit a fire under Ivey a little bit, but I think, long story short, I think we know what Ivey is and what he can give us. And right now he's doing a little bit more than that. I expect him to regress. Brandon Miller is kind of this enigma unknown kind of guy where when he catches fire, he could just light the entire world. And I think I'm just going with the upside here. Probably a little bit of internal bias just because I've been high on Brandon Miller for the last couple of years, but I'm going to buy low on Brandon Miller and hopefully he explodes.
I also am picking Brandon Miller here. He's only shooting 38.6 from the field this season. He shot 44% last season, so his percentage is going to improve as the season moves along. I like both players in fantasy, but the reason why I pick Miller, significantly higher three-point upside. So when you're splitting hairs like this between two young players that you like, for me, that's the difference. Now, you might be sitting next to your buddy and going, wait a minute. We're a half hour into the show, and we haven't had a Bulls minute yet. Have no fear. The Bulls minute is here for our last matchup. Josh Giddey or Josh Hart. Josh Giddey of the Chicago Bulls averaging 12.2 points, 6.3 rebounds, 6.6 assists, and 1.3 three-pointers, while Hart for the Knicks is averaging 13.7 points, 8.9 rebounds, 5.9 assists, and 1.2 three-pointers. Bulls fandom aside, Kirien, who do you want for fantasy basketball the rest of the season?
I mean, look, Josh Hart has been amazing, absolutely fantastic in category leagues, averaging career highs in assists and field goal percentage and minutes. But there's got to be some regression coming soon. I mean, Miles McBride is dealing with an illness / a knee injury. So, Thibs has no choice but to play Hart 40 minutes a game. And I've been reaping the benefits of Josh Hart in fantasy in multiple leagues. I'm expecting a little bit of regression, but not a major drop off where he isn't even a top 75 player right now. It's like a top 30 player in category leagues. Giddey is probably closer to his season long output, right? 12 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. He's just going to ho-hum, go about that. Maybe he'll get a couple triple doubles. Maybe he'll have some bad games. I think Giddey is probably the safer option. But Hart right now, I don't want to go against him. This could be, and I'm not a breakout campaign, not he's going to be a top 25 player in the NBA, but Josh Hart has done this year after year after year where he does whatever needs to happen with this team. And he's just the glue guy. Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Cat and Jalen Brunson, they all know that their separate roles, and Josh Hart does, I'm just going to do whatever I need to do on any given night. And when you're playing 40 minutes and you have that mentality, you can just rack up stats like crazy. And so being a fantasy player and watching a Knicks game and having Josh Hart on your team is just really fun. So that's the extent of my expert analysis. Is I'm just going to go with Josh Hart here because it's fun to watch him grab 15 rebounds, and then the next night dish out 10 assists, and then, shoot 60% from the field while also hitting some 3-pointers. He's just a unique player in fantasy right now, and I think he's a winning player in fantasy right now.
This one was the most difficult for me. I had a real hard time. This is like when my kids ask me who's their favorite. I had a hard time coming up with an answer for this one. I'm going to lean towards Josh Giddey simply because he's the younger player with the higher upside. His field goal shooting is down compared to what it normally is, so I think his efficiency is going to improve. His scoring numbers are going to go up. However, the big difference here, Hart is averaging 37 minutes a game. Giddey is averaging 27 minutes a game. So there's a ton of, and Hart is doing this with OG Anunoby healthy. Yeah. What happens when Anunoby gets hurt and this Knicks team is even more thin? I mean, Hart's going to play 40 minutes. He's going to see more shots. I'm not going to argue with whichever side you take here. I'm going to lean towards Giddey. It's not because I'm a Bulls fan. It's because I think he has the higher upside. And also, Hart's shooting 58.4% from the field right now.
Yeah.
Now, last season he shot, I believe it was 43.4%. That was way under. He had shot at least 50% the prior 2 seasons. So I think there's going to be some positive regression coming. Giddey increase in efficiency. I think Hart's efficiency is going to suffer a little bit. I love both guys. Now, Kirien, before we move forward, let's take 2 or 3 questions from the chat, and then this will give everybody time to call their buddies and their significant other, and if they're bad parents and kept their children home from school so they could listen for the what was that stat line of the week. But let's do 2 or 3 questions from the chat.
Yeah, real quick before we move on, the Josh Hart thing, I saw one stat where the league leaders in shooting at the rim, and it's big guy, Josh Hart, big guy, big guy. So that's probably definitely going to regress. But all right, so quick questions. We'll go back to the top. How would you rank these 4 bigs in 9-cat? Jonas Valanciunas, Nick Claxton, Nick Richards, or Onyeka Okongwu? This is tough. I think, Claxton is injured right now, probably not going to be back for a long time. Richards has been injured. You don't know when he's coming back. Valanciunas is probably going to get traded. So I think just by default, you go with Onyeka because he is a young, player that can trend upwards, and he's actually on the court consistently.
Yeah, if they were all healthy, it'd be Claxton, Okongwu, Valanciunas, and Richards for me. But because they're not, I'd make Okongwu 1.
For sure. Richards
would be last.
All right. Hang on to or upgrade, sell high on Dyson Daniels and or Bilal Coulibaly. I don't want to trade Dyson Daniels. I just want to ride that train and see where it takes me. For Coulibaly, I think he's kind of maybe gotten a little cold here in recent weeks, so you probably can't really sell high on him anymore. But both of these guys, I have both of them, and I don't want to trade them. These are young guys. Maybe Dyson is maybe outperforming in a scoring column a little bit, but he can just win if you're playing head-to-head categories, he can just win you weeks. If you're playing season-long rotisserie leagues, he can also win you a single category. So I'm probably holding on to both of these guys for now. What about you?
I agree. Daniels, I'm definitely holding on to. There's no question about that. Coulibaly, you got to remember, eventually the Wizards could try and trade a veteran or two, so his production could increase after the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So we'll hold on to both. Kirien, one last question before we move on.
All right. Gregory Wood says, who should I drop between Bogdanovic, Shaedon Sharpe, or Trey Murphy? This is tough. Not knowing what kind of league you are in, not knowing what the settings are. I think Shaedon Sharpe is a star. I think he's only going to continue to get more PT. Trey Murphy for so I'm going to say Trey Murphy for the short term, just because there's so many injuries in New Orleans. When all of those guys come back, Trey Murphy gets knocked down a little bit. Season long, I'm probably going with Sharpe. So
we're talking one guy to drop. To me, this is an easy Bogdanovic. I'm dropping Bogdanovic. Sharpe has tremendous upside. I think Murphy is an important part of the Pelicans. So, let's get rid of Bogdanovic for me.
Yeah, definitely. He says he's just got to clear off a space because he's got an IR coming back. I would agree. Bogdanovic is the move there.
All right. Now, before we get to the what was that stat lines of the week, we need a word from our friends at Vivid Seats. Finally, the NBA is back and court is in session. And to start the season, Vivid Seats is offering fans $20 off their first $200 purchase. Nothing beats seeing your favorite team hooping it up in front of thousands of cheering fans. Every slam dunk, every fast break, and every buzzer beater of your favorite team live and in person. Because Vivid Seats is the only leading ticket company with a rewards program, you can earn perks on every purchase, like amazing deals and unrivaled annual rewards all season long. Plus, with a 100% buyer guarantee, you can be sure your ticket will be as legit as your love for the game. Visit vividseats.com or download the app today and use promo code RotoWire for $20 off your first $200 purchase. That's promo code ROTOWIRE for $20 off your first minimum $200 ticket purchase. Download the app or visit vividseats.com. Vivid Seats, experience it live. And now it's time for the What Was That stat lines of the week. Kirien, you're up first.
I'm going right to Dalton Connects, the story of last night. 37 points, 12 for 16 from the field, 9 for 12 from deep. Tied a rookie record with 9 made three-pointers in a single game. He was 6 for 6 from deep in the third quarter, 21 total points. He got fouled on a three-point attempt and made all 3 of his free throws. He looked like Klay Thompson, when Klay Thompson was with the Warriors going off in that third quarter. What a performance. Will Hardy of the Jazz said, it seemed like everyone in the building knew that he was going to shoot it the next time he touched it, except for the guys on my team. That is a pretty telling quote right there. You got to give some love to the sharpshooter. Obviously, this probably won't be a routinely thing where he's flirting with 40 points. But he does have 64 points over the last 2 games, and he's made 14 three-pointers. So while Rui Hachimura is out, Connect seems to have found his groove. And if I know LeBron, he's going to be wanting to pass it to the shooters as much as he can. So what a night for the rookie. At least for the next couple of games, I don't see why he would stop shooting.
Yeah, that could end up being a huge pickup for the Lakers to get him and provide some young upside for their roster. Now, last week, we were both positive. This week, Kirien's positive. We can't both be positive, right? We got to get our blood pressure up a little bit. So, on November 17th, against the Atlanta Hawks, Jeremy Grant, the good, 3 steals and 2 blocks. That's great. The bad, he had 9 points, no rebounds, and 1 assist. He played 28 minutes. What was that? Over his last 2 games, he has combined for 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. Is this Jeremy Grant or is this Tony Snell? These stat lines are terrible. He's shooting just 38.5% from the field this season. Now, we normally don't expect him to provide much in terms of rebounds and assists. But, man, how does he score just 9 points against the Hawks? They play at the 3rd fastest pace in the league. Jeremy Grant, 9 points, no rebounds, 1 assist against the Hawks. What was that?
The Jeremy Grant situation is so funny. I think he can be a winning player on like a contending team, but then he's in Portland and he needs to be the star that he's just not. I don't think it's a good situation for him or for Portland. These performances seem to, I don't want to say be regular, but at least once a year he comes out with a Tony Snell-esque stat line, like you said.
It's okay for Tony Snell to do it. The guy was making the minimum. Jeremy Grant's making big bucks. How can you play 20? Now, I can't go completely crazy because he did have 3 steals and 2 blocks. So he was playing some defense, but no rebounds? None? 1 assist? That's terrible.
Especially in today's NBA. Barutha sent me this stat yesterday and it absolutely blew my mind. How many players do you think scored at least 20 points last season in the entire NBA?
Average or scored in one game?
Scored at least 20 points in one game.
Oh, I don't 150?
299 players scored at least 20 points. The Grizzlies had 14 players who scored at least 20 points in a single game. That's like an entire roster.
Chuck them up. Chuck them up.
Jeremy Grant, he'll get on that list, but not the other day.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. We had a lot of fun today. Did some debates here on who we want for the rest of the season. hopefully we gave you some good information to win your leagues. And we look forward, Kirien and I will look forward to talking to you again Wednesday of next week.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, everybody.